G'day guys, welcome back to another Collingwood review on the channel. Today I'll be reviewing the 4-goal loss to Brisbane that occurred last night. Friday night footy was a huge top of the table blockbuster, and yeah, we lost by 4 goals. It was a very high scoring match, the second in a row now for Collingwood, and yeah, it was another pretty disappointing loss, a pretty frustrating loss as well. And yeah, you know, our top spot is now in limbo, and you know, there is a lot of doubt that we will get it now with other teams, you know, circling. I mean, depending on other results this round, that will definitely impact, you know, us getting top spot. We just got to hope that Port Adelaide loses, and hopefully Brisbane loses next week, and hopefully we can beat Essendon. It was a very interesting game. It started off very high scoring. The first quarter, you know, there was about 9 goals combined, and the third quarter there was, you know, very similar. We had a few good patches. There was a few fairly even patches where it was just goal for goal, which was not really what we wanted. Seeming our defence stocks weren't great in that game, and they got even worse, which I'll explain on a little bit later, with injuries. We were coming into the game as well with heaps of injuries. Moore was out, Hill was out, DeGoey, and obviously Nick Dacos were all out, so it was always going to be very difficult to win. Brisbane were the favourites going into the game, so it was always going to be pretty difficult for us to win. It was very interesting as well. Sidebottom was back from injury, which was always good to say. Good to get players back, and he played all right. He wasn't anything good, but he was all right. Just trying to get him back into good form before the finals. We obviously had a debutant, Jacob Ryan. Congrats to him. Unfortunately, got concussed in his first game and got subbed out before half time. Didn't even get through a first half of footy, but he was actually fairly solid when, you know, out there, and unfortunately did get subbed out of the game. Mason Cox was our sub, a very, very interesting sub choice, but I'll explain a little bit more about him later on. So, yeah, look, obviously 4-goal loss, not ideal. Very high scoring. Surprised we actually ended up scoring 100 points. I think Brisbane should have scored 124 points. It's very, very concerning that we did let that happen, with 3 players kicking 3 or more goals as well from Brisbane. Yeah, it wasn't too great. Don't know how we managed to score 100. It was a night where we were clearly, you know, second best. And we just got to hope that that doesn't happen in the finals. We just got to really train hard. We've got to really focus on what we're doing wrong at the moment. And one thing that I've noticed that we are, I guess, lost from our first 18 to 19 weeks is energy. We don't have enough energy. We're not providing enough energy. Our defence just doesn't look very confident at the moment. It's been pretty confident for most of the season, but in the past month it's been a bit shaky, and it was very, very shaky last night. Every single time Brisbane went in, they scored. Sometimes, you know, we got let off the hook and they missed, but every single time they went in there, they seemed to score a goal. And another big problem was our midfield. The Big O was absolutely smashing Darcy Cameron in the first half. Obviously, Cox coming in and Cameron really stepping up in the second half changed that. But then Brisbane were better around the ground. I thought we were a little bit better around the ground in the first half, but then Brisbane were, and we just couldn't quite get back into it. We had a really good patch in the third quarter where we just blasted on a run of goals, which was good to see as well. But yeah, it was very interesting. Midfield got smashed for most of the night. Brisbane were just the better side in there. And yeah, because of that, we just couldn't get our forwards good enough looks. And every single time we did get it into our forward line, we actually looked to score, which was surprising. My check kick 2 was good. Same with McStay. He's kicked 2 goals in his past 5-6 games now, so, you know, he's just doing his job. Jeremy Howe played forward again, kicked 2 goals. John Noble went forward in the first quarter and kicked our first goal. He did look a little bit injured at times. He had a few good moments. Same with Ginnivan. First full game in quite some time. Josh Dacos was superb, one of our better players. Darcy Cameron also kicked a goal, hit the scoreboard, was huge with the 20 hit-outs. Now Mason Cox was our sub and came on and had a ridiculous second half, and he did spark us up a bit, him and Pendlebury. Pendlebury had his best game in 2-3 years, in my opinion. He was ridiculous. Mason Cox was great as well, only 5 touches but had 25 hit-outs. Was absolutely superb. And often rucks don't win your games of footy. While he was our X-factor player, I guess you could have said, and our spark, that was never going to win us the game. We always needed another player to step up. Obviously, Pendlebury was that player. But it was more of a team performance that lacked. We needed more energy as well. We've certainly lost our energy. That's something we've got to get back. Defence needs more confidence. We need to give our forwards more of a look. Because when we get it in there, they're actually doing quite well. That's really what we got to do. Obviously, Pendlebury was our best. Josh Dacos was great. Tom Mitchell was pretty good. He started off really well. Tagging Lockie Neal looked to be in the first quarter. But apart from those players, no one else was really too good. We just got to get our players back into not form, I guess. They've just got to give them more confidence, because confidence means energy. Energy means pressure. Our ground ball definitely needs work as well. And of course our handball changed with Noble playing a bit injured and Nick Dacos being out. We couldn't really get that going. And Brisbane took that away from us like they did earlier in the year. Nathan Murphy was obviously the big one, got subbed out of the game. Craig does expect him to be fit though for the Bombers clash next week, which is pretty important because, you know, he had a pretty difficult day on Joe Danaher. He started off really well, got an intercept mark in the first minute of the game. But yeah, it was a bit of a shame to see him and Ryan go out in his debut game. It was pretty bad. Will Hoskin-Elliott played his 200th game, so congrats to him. Absolute warrior of the club. Did really, really well. Bo McCreary will most likely get suspended for his dangerous tackle on Darcy Wilmot, which means that probably allows Bobby Hill to come back in and Ginnivan to hold his spot. Whether we bring back DeGoey, I don't know. It definitely looked like we needed another big-bodied mid-on-baller in the midfield, so I think we probably should bring him back in. Probably for Ryan, because he's been concussed. He's out for next week. And if Murphy goes out, then we've got some real issues. Billy Frampton cannot be playing on Peter Wright. That's just not going to work. Even Nathan Murphy on Peter Wright, it's just such a big height gap. But yeah, it wasn't too good, that performance last night. It was surprising, though, that we managed to get 100 points. Definitely the big takeaway. Our defence is probably the thing that we've got to fix first, and our midfield as well. We've got to get these things right. There's nothing wrong with our forward line at the moment. Our forward line's actually doing pretty well. Scored over 100 points the last 2 weeks. We're not too worried yet. It's not panic stations yet, like Craig McRae said after his press conference. He was speaking about a few things in particular. One was about, it's not really a slump that we're in. It's just a loss of confidence. And I do agree with him. He also expects DeGoey and Hill to be fine, which is always good because they provide speed and energy, and that's something that we certainly lacked last night. Our pressure was actually really good. I think at quarter time we had 18 of our 22 players record a tackle. That's just a ridiculous record. So our pressure was definitely there. Brisbane's picked theirs up in the second half. Brisbane were better around the ground and with their pressure in the second half, where we were better in the first half, and then we got better in the stoppages in the second half when Brisbane were better in the first half. Cam Rayner was so annoying. Umpiring I thought was a bit against us. Then again, you can say that about the Carlton game and the Hawthorn game as well, and probably even last week against Geelong. The umpiring has not been in our way the past month, which certainly doesn't help. Also want to give a congratulations for Braden Maynard, who's captaining the side for the first time in his career. He wasn't great, but he still got his hands on it, did his role. Hopefully we can bounce back next week. We just need to get the 4 points. It's just such an important 4 points, not only to secure the minor premiership. I mean, we've already secured top 2, which is already what we want, but we just want to get some confidence back into the group. And we'll start on Monday at training. And then we've got, a couple of weeks to get going before our first final. I hope you guys enjoyed the review, and I'll see you guys next week.